This week, we're going to be talking about assessment and how technology can help us with assessment in the classroom. Here are our learning objectives for the week. We'll be learning about all different kinds of assessment tools that we can use in our classroom, so you'll know a variety of tools. You'll understand the difference between formative and summative assessment. We'll be talking about feedback and progress monitoring and what that has to do with assessment. And you should understand that assessment should definitely match the learning goals in order to be effective. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to visualize many ways of how technology can enhance classroom assessment and be able to create a quality screencast. So we'll start with what to assess. What do we assess in the classroom? Well, sometimes we assess the knowledge. Do our students know the certain things they need to know, the content knowledge? And then understandings. Understandings go beyond knowledge to the concepts and generalizations, being able to understand the big ideas behind the knowledge and how it's all connected. And then we also need to assess skills. It might be skills that are reading the maps, skills like that, or it might be thinking skills, being able to synthesize, being able to draw a conclusion. Those are skills that we might want to assess. So how can assessment really help learning? The first thing is that immediate feedback. If you really want students to take the assessment information and learn from it and grow, then they need some kind of feedback. And the closer the feedback is to the actual learning, the easier it is for the students and the more helpful it is. So immediate feedback is the best, but quick feedback is okay as long as you have feedback as close to the learning as possible. Progress monitoring allows you to monitor the progress and allows students to see their progress over time, to see themselves improving gradually over time. Now, the difference between formative and summative assessment is formative assessment is what you do to find out what the students know, understand, and are able to do in order to inform your instruction. So you take that information and it helps you decide what to teach, how to teach, and when to teach it. That's formative assessment. It doesn't count for a grade. It's information for you to help you know what each student needs. Summative assessment, on the other hand, could be for a grade, and that's to find out what the students know, understand, and be able to do after you've taught them, after they've gone through the instruction. Of course, summative assessment can turn around and become formative assessment if you use the information to help inform your instruction for the future. So we're going to be looking at a lot of different technology tools, and the ones that are going to be the most helpful and the most effective are tools that will give us immediate feedback and give the students immediate feedback, whether they're right or wrong or whether they're on the right track. Tools that will help monitor the progress of students as they learn. Tools that we can use for formative assessment to get quick information about what students know and understand and they're able to do. And tools that will help us with summative assessment. Maybe some tools, technology can correct things for us. It can give us a lot of information that will help us determine what students need. So what makes for effective assessment? First of all, assessment should match your learning objectives directly. So first you should start with, what do I want students to know? What do I want them to understand at a deeper level? And what skills do I want them to be able to do? Once you know what those objectives are and you're very clear about that, then you should make up assessments that will test that. How do we assess whether students know something? Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to assess understanding. So how do we assess understanding? If we say students need to understand a certain thing, how do we know they do understand that? And then how do we assess skills? Not with a multiple choice test. So what technology tools can we use to help assess these things? Well, we might have different formats. So for example, for knowledge, test knowledge, we might give them tests, multiple choice, true, false, quizzes, where there's a right answer, and this is where technology can really help because it can grade for us, it can score for us. If there's a right and a wrong answer, technology can do all the work behind figuring out what the students know and don't know. It can give them immediate feedback, and it can give us progress monitoring. So that's one thing where technology can really help streamline assessment, both formative and summative. When it comes to understandings, we might give students essays to write, or they might create products where they show their understanding through the product, like a video, or a screencast, or making their own book, or writing a story. Those are all products that could show that students understand concepts. And what about skills? Being able to make a screencast, for example, being able to write an essay, being able to read a map, those are skills. So how do we know if students can read a map? They can demonstrate it for us. We can watch them apply it. We can give them a map and watch them read the map and ask them questions and see if they understand how to read the map. But how can technology help? What we're going to do next is look at technology tools that will help us in all these different assessment formats. To start with, let's look at some of my favorite applications for testing knowledge of students. You can use this for formative assessment or summative. But here's some great, see how over here, this is infused learning, and see, this is quick assessment. So on this side, these are all things that I could ask on the spot without any prep ahead of time. I can just send questions to my students and they can answer me on whatever device they have, a mobile device, a laptop, anything that's hooked up to the internet. So let's say I want to send them an open-ended question. I just click on this right here, and you see this is my iPad, I'm in it, but right now on my iPad it gives me a place to type. So I would just ask a question, like what day is today? Type it in, press submit on my iPad, and then you'll see right away if I go to summary here, one response for Sunday. You can go to details and find out who said it. Okay, and I could show names or not. That's one example of what I could do with this. But notice all the different kinds of questions I could ask. I could ask a question that's a Likert scale. So how confident are you in learning what we learned today? I could do a quick check for understanding at the end of class or in the middle of class. I can do a poll. I can just do a generic. What do you think? Do you strongly agree, disagree? I can ask multiple choice. I can ask students to put things in order, sorting letters or sorting by numbers. I can ask them to draw a response. So watch what happens when I do this. When I click on this, on my iPad, I get drawing. So I can just draw whatever I want and submit it. So I would give my students a specific thing to draw, and the images would come right through here. So now you would see all of your students' images, and you could then talk about, maybe it's the water cycle or whatever it is that they drew. When you go to save the results, it saves as a PDF. You have a different page for every student. You could have an instant ebook for your students. So those are quick assessments, and then over here I can make quizzes ahead of time and have my students take one question at a time. Or I could send them a drawing and have them draw on it. Or I could send them a link, and then when they click on it, they'll go to a certain website. So this is one of my favorite resources for collecting that quick information, or for a summative assessment at the end or in the middle of a unit to find out what my students know. It is a synchronous kind of an instrument, so it wouldn't work well with our class since you do assignments all different times during the week. But if we were face to face, we would be using this tool a lot. So that's one of the tools. Another tool for assessment is this Poll Everywhere. So look how easy it is. You just go to Poll Everywhere. You don't need an account or anything. You just create a poll. You can ask whatever question you want. Just think about this as a tool for finding out what your students know and don't know. You could ask them to summarize very quickly what you just heard. And then we get this screen, and they just go on their device, and they're already in the room, and they can answer. They just put in this code that's right here. or if they have a phone, they can text it, or they can go online and they can put in this code 231049. There it is. There's my answer, purple. So this would be for quick polls. You could send, you have a text message, notice it's here, or you could send multiple choice and it'll give you a chart there of what's happening. Now here's another tool. It's one of my favorite tools, and this is Nearpod that you use with iPads. So if you look at this website, the teacher creates multimedia presentations. So take a PowerPoint, uploads it to the internet in her Nearpod account or his Nearpod account, and then can put different things in the PowerPoint. So different kinds of questions, have students draw things, send them to the internet, have them watch videos, and then the students send back those responses and the teacher gets it and they can monitor the progress. So some teachers really like this because they send the presentation right to their students' iPads. The students have to be on that. They can't go to another thing. So they're looking at the teacher's presentation, they're answering the questions. The questions are going back to the teacher. They can get a report on it. It's really powerful in the classroom. I watched this in a high school chemistry classroom, and you could see the light bulbs going on in the students' heads when the teacher got the questions back, and then they were able to go over what the answers were when they were drawing things, and you could see their understanding just appear as they were going over those answers. So that's an example of how immediate feedback can make a difference. So you might want to go to this website and click on how Nearpod works, or go down here and watch Nearpod in action. That's a great resource. So those are some ways to find out if students know things. You could also find out if they understand them with either one of those two tools, or this tool, Today's Meet, which we used at the beginning of the semester. Look at how easy it is to create a room. Think about it as a synchronous Twitter, but you can make the room within a minute or less than a minute. So I could just name this room, and I've done it before and named it CEP 506 and say I want the room to be available just for a couple hours or for a whole week. Create the room, and now all people have to do is go to todaysmeet.com/whatever you named the room. They put their name in, and whatever they say, it goes in the box. So I know a fourth grade teacher who uses this. Her kids think it's great because she tells them it's like Twitter, and she'll be in the middle of teaching them and ask them to draw an inference or draw a conclusion. Everyone will type in their answer, and the answers will appear right here. They'll see all of the answers, and they can go over what makes this a good inference, what makes this not a good inference. She has some students who don't like to answer at all, and she'll tell them to look at the rest of the answers and pick one that they think is the best answer and type that in, so that everyone participates. Everyone gets to answer every question. They don't have to raise their hand and have just one person participate at a time. So this is a great tool for that quick formative assessment and find out what do students know right now and how might I want to change my teaching because of it. So those are some of them. Also, you notice that we used Google Drive and we used the forums before, so that's another thing you could do. And we use it in our class because we aren't synchronous. This is something you could use in an asynchronous way. And you could just create your form, and all of you did this. Created your form, and then you have all these different kinds of questions. What we didn't do is really look at all the different kinds of questions, but notice that you can do a scale, have them choose from a list, check boxes, paragraph, text. One thing with Google Forms is it doesn't correct it for you, so you still have to do the correcting, but you still can gather a lot of information quickly. You do get a spreadsheet that you can download and put in Excel and work with it. So this is another great tool for gathering summative information about what students know and don't know. If you're a math teacher or you know a math teacher, then this is a great site for both monitoring progress and for providing feedback to students about their math skills. You make an account, your students log into your account and they can work on their math skills and you can monitor their progress. So math teachers love this site. You might want to check this site, 10 marks, if you know of a math teacher. Now, what about assessing understandings and assessing skills? There, in order to assess something like that, you really have to know what students are thinking, and they have to demonstrate things to you. So to do that, the best tool that I know of is the screencasting tool. Right now I'm using the Screencast-O-Matic. When I get done with this, I can make a screencast, and then I'm going to be using iMovie to edit it. So you can see this is the screencast that I'm making right now. I'll be editing that in a little bit. So that's screencasting, or you could use screencasting for your students where they can make a screencast and tell you about their understandings. Okay, here's EduCreations, and students created screencasts to explain to their teacher that they understood about government. They had to create their own island, and on that island they had to create their own government, and they had to create the economy of the island, all those things, and they explained those things in their screencasts. They made these screencasts on their...
Our country's name is Venezuela.
Okay, they made the screencast on their iPad, and then they explained to their teacher how the economy of their country worked and all those different things. So she was able to see if they understood. I had screencasts made by students for math, explaining how they solve math problems, screencasts about science. So there's all different things that you can do, but students have to explain their thinking, and they can demonstrate and point and show what they're thinking. So screencasts are a great tool to assess understanding by students. Another way you can assess their understanding is to make a product like a book. Book Creator is another iPad. So if you have an iPad, if you have students that have iPads, this is a great, easy tool to use, and the students can make their own books. There's a video here so you can watch what it looks like to make their own books. I had second graders do some research and make a book just in one day by putting in pictures, typing in their content. You can put videos in this, and you can also record your voice. So Book Creator is another app that's great for assessing understanding as students synthesize what they know and put it together, and they can explain their understanding. If you're going to be using projects to assess your students' understandings and skills, then it's a good idea to have a rubric to make it clear about what your expectations are for a quality product. There are two websites, Rubistar and iRubric, that give you all kinds of rubrics that you can adjust and monitor and change them to your specifications. So you might want to check those out. Here's the QR codes for them if you want to check them out. We're going to be learning about QR codes in a week or two. Some of you might already know what they are. Otherwise, just Google Rubistar and iRubric and you can find those websites. So we are going to be having a little project to see if you understand about assessment. And here's your task. You're going to make a screencast, look at all these different tech assessment resources that I went over today, and you might have some more that you know about. These are only just a few, the tip of the iceberg here. Pick one resource that you think is a great resource for the classroom for assessment, and then you're going to make a screencast. In that screencast, you're going to tell us about the tool and tell us how it can be used for assessment. So to make this very clear, here's the learning goals that I want you to show me that you know. Show me what you know about the tool itself, one of these tools or one of your choice, and then explain your understanding how it can be used for assessment. So you might talk about formative or summative assessment. You can talk about whether it gives fast feedback, whether it helps students or teachers monitor progress, anything about assessment. And you're going to be creating your own screencast and be demonstrating your skill in creating a quality screencast. So there's going to be a rubric, and the rubric will explain to you exactly what I expect, but these are the questions I asked to create the rubric. What makes a quality screencast? And how will I know that you understand the assessment concepts that we talked about today? So here's the rubric for your assessment assignment. It's going to be a screencasting rubric, so you're going to be making a screencast for one of the tech assessment resources that you think will have a good impact on learning. So if you can look across down the side here, the 4 things that are most important is your organization. So planning ahead, what do you want to see on the screencast, first, second, third, fourth, and then you can make it clear. If you use title slides, it really helps. We want the content to be well organized and really explain to the viewer how this resource works and what are the main features. And begin with a clear focus on what the resource is about. Your video, we're looking for your video to be high quality, video and audio. Make sure the content is appropriate and clearly visible with easy to read fonts and colors. You can add some graphics and visual effects if you like. And for the audio, it does help to rehearse, try things. Sometimes you have to edit things out. Your voice should be clear and expressive. Use some enthusiasm. Use a good tone so that it's not monotone. Your voice volume should enhance your presentation, and we shouldn't be hearing some background noise and fumbling or sounds or dead space. And in the content, I'm looking for your understanding of assessment concepts. So we have them over here. And you'll notice the content is worth 60 points because this is a tool to assess your understanding of assessment. So that's the most important thing. Then you'll notice up here your organization is worth 20 points. The video portion and the audio portion, that's worth 20 points as well, 10 for each thing. And then you can notice going along the bottom here, if you get expert, you get between 18 and 20 points, practitioner 14 to 17. So that's what those numbers mean. So the whole assignment is worth 100 points. And good luck. As always, ask questions if you need anything. And last but not least, let's just go over your assignments for this week. First of all, I want to just tell you that your research papers were phenomenal. I really enjoyed reading them. After we went through the first draft, the second time I read them, I just was reading them as if I was reading an article and enjoying them just for the content that you had in there. We're going to be looking at those further and actually sharing them with each other in the future. But just wanted to let you know what a great job you did this week. Those are learning objectives. If you want the PowerPoint from this week, the presentation, then there's the PDF for that. You're going to be looking at different ways that teachers use assessment and technology in their classroom. I have an example here for you to watch, and I have a link that you can go to. Click on this. There's 71 videos related to assessment. A lot of them have to do with technology. So look through them. I'm not watching all of them, but watch the ones that interest you and pick one that you really like, and then go into the discussion forum and give us a link and explain to us why we should watch it. Try to make it a hyperlink instead of just copying and pasting the URL in there. That makes it easier for us to click on. And then you are going to, this is your assessment task that I mentioned in the previous part of this screencast. There's some screencasting tools. You already downloaded Jing for an earlier assignment. I was using Screencast-O-Matic. There's some more tools here in ScreenR. This is online, so you don't need to download anything. It works really well. And the last assignment for this week is in the discussion forum. This is a thought-provoking video that I'd like you to watch. Heidi Hayes Jacobs, who's an expert in the field of curriculum and curriculum design. She's really thought-provoking, and she has some things that would be important for us to think about and talk about. So watch the video, and then in discussion 3 in the discussion forum, put your thoughts about what you're watching. So that's it for this week. Don't forget to fill out your checklist and submit it when you're done. Good luck, and as always, ask if you have any questions.